Welcome, viewers, to this special podcast. We are doing this to commemorate the Kargil Diwas on 26th July, and we have with us Mrs. Meghna Girish, who is the mother of Braveheart Major Akshay Girish, who we know was the hero of the Nagrota attack defenses of the Indian Army. He gave his all. We lost him in that attack, but he has left behind a legacy that we will all be super proud of. He gave his life for his country, for his nation. But why we have his mother here today on the Kargil podcast is because from my several interactions with her over the many years last and having read and listened to her in the past, I know that Major Akshay Girish was a kid during the Kargil War, and he is one of those from the generation who was influenced positively, inspired to join the Indian Army, apart from the fact that, of course, he comes from a family with a glorious defense tradition from both his mother and his father's side. And therefore, welcome to the podcast, Meghna ji.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, actually, it's our honor, ma'am, because I have in the past also, whenever I interacted with you, one very noteworthy thing about you is that even though you're only son, you have a twin daughter, twin of Akshayji, Neha, with you. But even though you lost your only son, I find you carrying on the work of inspiration for the younger generation, carrying forward Akshayji's legacy and not acting bitter and trying to dissuade other parents from sending their son to the war front. You lost everything, but you are still an inspiration. You know, sometimes I think salute is just not enough for mothers like you. And we will talk later on about a lot of other work that you're doing to carry forward Akshayji's work. But since we were talking about the Kargil War, I just wanted to hear from you about during the Kargil War, where were you and where was Major Akshay Girish? How old was he? And how was his day during that time?
Yeah, thank you, Priti. The Kargil War was the first war that was beamed into everyone's home because it was covered on television. And at that point of time, Akshay was 13 years old. He was studying in school, and he used to come home every day. And, like he would throw his bag quickly as soon as he entered and sit down in front of the sofa, and the TV would either be on or he would switch it on, and he would start watching what happened. And this was over a 2 month period because the war was stretched over two
Yeah,
months and each
correct.
day what was happening, he was greatly interested in that. Of course, coming from a defense family, his father being a fighter pilot, his grandfather was in the army, his uncle was also in the air force. So he, of course, he had that background, but and he did want to join the forces. But I think his heroes in real life, when you say hero, it is not somebody you have only read about or heard about. Those whom he was watching in reality as a young boy, they were on screen. These were our soldiers who were doing the impossible, like, peak after peak. That was a war fought in these very harsh mountainous battlefields. It was thrust upon us, and his first hero was Lieutenant Manoj Pandey, who was Paramveer Chakra. And uh, he, even in his last moments, of course, like the press has reported, he was like "Chodna nahi," matlab, even if I am gone, don't leave the enemies. So it did have a big it played a big role. The Kargil War heroism played a big role in making Akshay even more determined to earn that uniform and to serve his country. And of course, all of us saw Captain Vikram Batra. Dil Mange More, on TV. He was being interviewed and he said these words. And initially, like I remember, I think it was June 12th or 13th when the first major victory came in India's way, and that was the Battle of Tololing. Two Rajrif put the Tiranga back on Tololing top, and later on, of course, history has reported it. General Ved Malik has written a very nice book, From Surprise to Victory, where he said that that was the turning point in the war. After that, the belief of the nation and that the soldiers will make sure that no peak is left under the enemy control. That started happening after the Tololing top victory on June 12th. Peak after peak after peak was, being evicted. Enemy was being evicted, and Indian soldiers were putting the Tiranga on top. So that was very inspiring. Inspiring not just for children, even for people like us who were watching, in any ordinary Indian, right? It became something very inspiring. And yes, so I think that did play a big role. And later, when Akshay cleared NDA and he went to NDA, he sent me a picture from the Hut of Remembrance, where Lieutenant Manoj Pandey, Paramveer Chakra, his name is engraved in that Hut of Remembrance. It's Hut of Remembrance is a memorial built by the NDA cadets themselves in honor of their alumni who have laid down their life for the country. And of course, now when we go to NDA, we see Akshay's name is also in that list. Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I would say that um, none of this generation might remember a full fledged war with the enemies. But Kargil is the most recent and the closest. And because it was beamed into all homes, and for the first time, Prime Minister Vajpayee ensured that the mortal remains of the brave hearts were brought back home. Before
Yeah.
that, they used to
We
just
do.
be cremated on site wherever they lost their lives, and the families or the village or the neighbors, nobody used to really be part of that farewell. But now they started coming home. So anybody nearby, any braveheart, uh, people were rushing there to pay their last respects. So it made the whole country, it strengthened the whole country as one. That when enemy attacks, then definitely we will come together and we stand behind our forces, and um, nothing is above motherland, not even mother. I will say this: motherland comes first, right? So, I mean, she's our motherland. India's our motherland also. So, definitely, motherland comes first, and such bravery and heroism, such sacrifice by such young soldiers, it has a huge impression on growing minds.
No, seriously, salute to this kind of philosophy, where a mother herself is saying that motherland comes before mother also. I remember about the Kargil War that initially the intelligence inputs were that Pakistan is shopping for high altitude mountain gear for its soldiers. And then there were also the shepherds who were there in the region of the border or the LOC, who were reporting that some people clad in Pathani suits who did not appear like typical Indians who were seen by the shepherds there. And then the Indian army sent the patrol. And we all know about Captain Saurabh Kalia of 4 Jat Regiment, who went with 5 of his soldiers, never to return, and only their mutilated bodies later to come, very, very late, in fact, in June. And we all know those tragedies of Kargil War. So, it really did begin in a very, very sad, morose kind of depressive note. We didn't have the upper hand even in the type of terrain that our soldiers were going to fight on. The Pakistani people had taken, they were Pakistani Northern Light Infantry soldiers as well as some militants, not non combat people, who had taken
Yeah.
positions at high altitude places. So anybody from the Indian side who was going to go defend was already a sitting duck for them, you know. People
True.
really had to accept the fact that you may or may not come back from this combat, no matter how brave you are, because the terrain, the positions, everything is very much against what was there. What about your husband who was a fighter pilot those days, ma'am? Where was he commissioned that time?
No, my husband had just taken a voluntary retirement in February, and this war was thrust on us in May. So he was
Oh,
a reservist. He was on the reserve list.
okay, okay, okay.
He was out of the Air
Right.
Force. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
But they're on a
Yeah.
reserve list for 2 years, no? That if there is a war
Yeah.
again and if you are called upon to defend. But
Hanji.
Kargil was a limited conflict. It remained limited to that sector. Had
That
it
is
become a
true.
full
That is
fledged war, then others would also be called in.
they would have been recalled.
Yes,
But that
yes.
also means that when your husband was on postings at different places, you as a mother had to influence your son for whatever he was imbibing. So in that time, did you never feel that you have an only son and would rather don some corporate gear and live a cushy life?
See, as a mother, I just wanted my children to be to follow their passion and to be good citizens and to never forget that country comes first. But I would support any field that they wanted to uh, go into, and my guidance would be, to aim to rise to your potential, to do your best, and to give back to your country. It was not about sending or not sending my children into the armed forces. But Akshay, from a very young age, wanted to be in the forces. In fact, he was very impressed with his father, who was a fighter pilot. He was very impressed with his grandfather, who was a veteran of many wars. So he would, as he grew, he would more and more, ask about their stories, about their experiences, and he was already influenced. I didn't need to do that. But yeah, I would say that as an army child myself, and as the wife and sister of Air Force officers, I am no less a Fauji. In fact, I always say that I am a Fauji daughter, a Fauji sister, a Fauji wife, and a Fauji mother. So I feel very strongly for our soldiers and for the work that they do, because let's not forget, if our country has progressed in these last 75 to 80 years, if it has progressed, it's because our soldiers have made sure that the borders are secured, and everybody else who's within our borders is free to follow their choice of education and career and dreams and whatever it might be. So I never dissuaded him, nor did I encourage him. But once he had made up his mind that I will go into the forces, in fact, like all mothers, I forced him to do CET, saying if you don't get into the armed forces, it's not an easy exam. Uh, NDA entrance is not easy. SSB is very tough. Hardly
Absolutely,
one
ma'am. It's one
in
of the very
so many.
grueling
It
ones.
is still the most competitive in that age group of 17 years, 16 to 18 and a half years. And if you don't make it, then you have to have a plan B. So I made him write the common entrance test for other professional courses. He got a good rank. He was getting a free seat for 17 and a half thousand. But he was very clear. I will not take that because I will clear SSB. By then, he had already cleared the written. And why will anybody not take me? I will definitely clear. He had that confidence. So he joined Jain College for BSc for like a few months, uh, because by the time your written results come, and then your SSB happens and your call letter comes, it takes about 6 months. So
Yes.
he just went, he joined the NCC and all of that, but he made it, and he went off to the NDA. So it was not that I encouraged him, nor did I stop him. I was very proud that when he chose to do something and he put in the effort, he succeeded. That is, I think, a matter of joy for any parent. That if your child has set his heart on something and he's willing to put in that much of effort, and that effort bears fruit, what else do you want?
Whatever videos and footages and photos I've seen of him, he was a strikingly strong, young, handsome young man with a beautiful life promise before him. I've seen photos of him with his sister during her wedding preparations, teasing her with sheen, having her hands full of henna, and he's teasing her. And it's such a beautiful picture, actually. Only lovely memories remain now, though. But coming back to his hero that you had spoken about, Manoj Kumar, Lieutenant Come Manoj Kumar Pandey, who posthumously got the Paramveer Chakra, we know that Lieutenant Pandey led his platoon in a fierce assault on Bajrang Post or nearby enemy positions in the Batalik sector. Despite heavy fire, he charged enemy bunkers, killing several infiltrators single handedly with grenade and gunfire. He sustained fatal injuries but continued motivating his men until the objective was captured. His gallantry helped secure critical heights in the Batalik sector. I find this strikingly similar to what Major Akshay did in Nagrota. When I recall also that before the attack started, he was not on duty, and he had also sent a WhatsApp message of on your family group about how every routinely one does. Then how did he end up into the attack when he was not on the duty? Can you please walk us through that, Akka?
Yes, Kirti. See, Nagrota was after Uri. The terror attack in Nagrota happened after Uri and the India surgical strike. So
Who were
what had
the
happened is,
terrorists from? The terrorists were from
the
the
terrorists had all been Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists from Pakistan. They were
Ji,
Pakistani Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists.
Ji,
They had been helped to infiltrate a night before, and when you say help to infiltrate, it's always Pakistan's fault. They are the ones who say yahan se ghuso, and they help them to get across. They give them cover, whatever. So these three had infiltrated. They had been picked up by local Jaish-e-Mohammed
sleeper
supporters in
cells.
Kashmir. Those are our own
Yes,
citizens. The local Jaish-e-Mohammed supporters in Kashmir, those were the ones who picked them up after they infiltrated the border. They picked them up in a vehicle. I think it was a sumo or something like that. They picked them
Ji,
up and they took them to a lodge for the night. They stayed a night in the lodge, and somewhere towards middle of the night or something, they were dropped beyond about a kilometer from the place of attack. They were dropped where they climbed a small hillock which was fully grown with trees and all that. And then they entered the cantonment wall from a tree, like, a tree which had fallen over the wall. They had an easy entry. And nobody in Nagrota also thought that they would come and attack in Jammu area. Usually the attacks happen more closer to Srinagar. So this
Ji.
was a soft target, and they had purposely planned this soft target because, after the Uri attack, India's surgical strikes were very successful against Pakistan. Our paras went in and they destroyed a lot of terror camps, and they came back without any casualty. So those people also wanted to show that, we can also come and attack within India. So while they had an easy entry, then they were soldiers who were on leave from Rashtriya Rifles going back home. They were sleeping. So this was like at about 5:15 a.m. They entered where they were sleeping and they shot dead three of them who never got a chance to fight. And then the guard, who there was a change of guard at that time, and then the guard who was going back to his post, they shot him. So the first four soldiers were killed on entry without them getting a chance to fight. And then they occupied these blocks where there were families. They were children, there were women, there were unarmed men. They were still sleeping. Andar se darwaza, doors were locked from inside. And then there were many soldiers, unmanned, unarmed soldiers were also there. They occupied the staircase and the roof of these buildings, and they were trying to get into the houses. That was the time that my son led the quick reaction team. That was the time, like, when the first bullets and grenades went off and those first four soldiers were killed, that was the time that Akshay's unit CEO got a call saying that we've been attacked and we need your help. This is from the adjacent unit. So the adjacent unit was attacked, which was an artillery unit, and Akshay's unit 51 Engineer Regiment, they had the quick reaction team vehicle, which is like a mine protected vehicle. It's called a Casper. So by then, of course, the minute the first noises of bullets and grenades went off, my daughter-in-law Sangeeta says Akshay was in the bathroom and he was getting ready for PT. And then he opened the door and he said, "This is not an artillery drill." And he opened his cupboard and he took out his combat uniform. Instead of wearing PT gear, instead of wearing morning PT gear, he wore his combat uniform. And by the time he was tying his shoelaces, the call came that everybody to your units. And as he left the door, my daughter-in-law says he never looked back. He said, "Write about this," and he walked away. And he never looked back for her to wave or to
Getting
say bye.
goosebumps.
That was the focus. And then he reached his unit. The minute he reached his unit, the vehicle was there, and so some of the soldiers were already wearing their bulletproof and getting in and all that. And his CEO said, "Akshay, you lead the team." So he got into the vehicle, and of course, we didn't know any of this. The message that you're talking about didn't come at that time. The message came at 8:09. That was when the attack was on in full swing, because we on the family WhatsApp had started discussing. This was showing on television, and my daughter-in-law had sent a message around 6 something saying there's been an attack in Nagrota. Everybody is all the men are out, and we cannot watch TV because we're not supposed to make any noise, no lights, no sound, etc. There are guards outside our homes also. They were still living in transit blocks. They hadn't yet got a house. The unit had newly moved in, Akshay's unit. And so you watch and let me know what's happening. That's what she said. Naina was still asleep. She had just woken up with the
Your
sound. So I
granddaughter,
was trying to
Naina,
make her
was
sleep again. She was 3 years
your.
old.
Hmm.
Naina, my granddaughter, yeah. So she had woken up with the sound, and her mother was trying to make her go back to sleep, a small child,
Yeah.
obviously. She had put pillows on next to her ears and all of that. But of course, it didn't work. It was a huge firefight. It was a huge attack. They had come armed with enough ammunition for a 2-day siege, with enough rations. They were all on drugs, to fight and to cause a big embarrassment by taking hostages. That was the aim, that they should take hostages. They can, if they get some hostages, then the siege becomes much longer. But that did not happen because the quick response team contained them immediately, did not allow anyone to escape. They started evacuating those who were trapped. And in the process of saving many lives, like Akshay's citation says, that in trying to rescue 16 people, 16 people, which included women and children, he entered and got into a fight with the terrorist, and he took bullets, and then a grenade was launched at him from a UBGL, which is a gun kind of a thing, and it was that grenade which probably, because the two bullets were not they had not hit any vital organs, but that grenade burst near his leg, and it hit, and it was loss of blood. He was not they were not able to pull him out because the firefight was so heavy, and the terrorists were so much armed that because of loss of blood he lost his life. He sacrificed his life, but everybody else who had been trapped, all of them were rescued, all of them unharmed.
I am just too overwhelmed by what I heard just now, Akka. Like he threw himself in the middle of a fight and he did not think about his life. just to rescue those hostages which were taken up by those terrorists. I am reading from what I found in the citation that his buddy has told the powers that be that terrorists had taken positions in residential buildings and house of housing officers' families and held around 16 hostages, including women and children. Major Akshay assessed the high risk situation and moved in with his team, including his buddy Nayak Chittaranjan Debbarma and others, to engage the terrorists and rescue the trapped civilians. Leading from the front, he entered the dangerous area with waist high undergrowth and buildings, engaging the heavily armed terrorists despite the risk. And when he helped pin down the terrorists, he prevented them from spreading further and massacring innocents and ensured the safe rescue of all 16 hostages. So, in that intense firefight, he was hit, like you explained just now, first by bullets and then the grenade. And then, because he could not be evacuated in time because of the heavy firefighting, he just lost too much blood and then consciousness and then his life. So, it is not just 16 hostages that he rescued. He pinned those militants, those terrorists, militants is the wrong word. He held back those terrorists from spreading further and taking more hostages and killing more humans. So,
There were
it's not
300
just,
families, hardly 500 meters away. 300 soldier
yeah.
families
And
had,
like you
and
said, he
these
was
were,
heavily armed.
yes, yes, Akka. These they were fidain, means they had come to kill themselves. And when they come as fidain, they know that they are not going to escape. So their aim is to kill as many people as they can, and to lengthen the attack as much as they can, so that they will go down. Oh, they are hailed as shaheed and martyrs. It's a very radicalized brain kind of a thing, you know and neither will I live, nor will I'll let others live. So in that kind of a situation, and imagine our soldiers in the QRT are outside, they are inside the building, and the fire is coming, you don't know where from. Like, my Akshay was also shot from a soldier from a terrorist who was sheltered inside a room. He was out and getting into the staircase to try to save other people. So you are exposed, and you can't even use big you can't blow up the building because your own people are inside it. It's not a fair war.
True.
Terrorism is never a fair war. Unlike war, कि अच्छा सीमा के उस पार जो भी है वो दुश्मन है, मारो. Here you can't do that. Here your own
Yeah.
people are under bhi. So how do maximum restraint? This is what happens. So yes, not just Akshay, Major Kunal Gosavi, who was very brave, he laid down his life, and Naik Chitranjan, Akshay's buddy, he was the last. He also had to lay down his life before the operation ended. And the good thing is that little babies were saved, women were saved, other men were saved. And the biggest thing is that what they came with a plan of a long siege and a huge attack, they failed, because by 11:30 the operation was over and they had all been killed. Then it was only clearing up and sanitization. Sometimes they
So,
just
this
booby trap
was,
their own bodies so that somebody comes to just
yeah.
pull them out, and the bomb will go off and more casualties will. They are so stupid, they're so cruel, they don't care about a life at all. So in reality, their plan to lay down a big siege to cause maximum damage, there was zero collateral damage. Nothing happened. There were like there was an arms depot nearby. There were 300 other families. There were a lot of other assets, military assets. None of them were damaged. So in that sense, it was a hugely successful counter terror operation. And yeah, that is there. Our soldiers are the best. Our armed forces are the best in the world, be it Kargil or be it counter terror. In Kargil also, like, they knew that they have to climb up these steep peaks without a blade of grass, no tree to hide, right? Nothing at all.
Very
And
true.
the enemy is sitting on top, and upar se they are, it's like raining fire, literally. And still they did it. It is sheer determination. It is, what do you say, Paltan ka, naam, namak, izzat,
Nisha.
all of that, nishan. And it's for the glory of the flag. It's for the nation's glory that they do that. And definitely, Kargil, I think, showed that. I mean, uh, we have uh, we have two living legends from the Kargil War, and so many Mahavir Chakras. I mean, Paramvir Chakra living legends. I'm saying we have so many Mahavir Chakras, and we've had the honor of felicitating them through our work as part of Major Akshay Girish Memorial Trust, where we try to motivate students to, put country, serve the nation, and follow your dreams, but don't forget to give back to your country. So we've had the honor of felicitating many of these Kargil war heroes, and one of them is Colonel Sonam Wangchuk, Mahavir Chakra. He was one of the first Mahavir Chakras of the Kargil War, known as the hero of Chorbatla from Ladakh Scouts. So we've got them over to Bangalore, and all these heroes are so grounded, so compassionate, so brave, but so compassionate. That is something that we've seen. And Akshay, of course, he was a complete charmer. He was very good looking, very talented. He, every activity he excelled in. Sports, be it tennis, basketball. He was always in teams. He loved games and sports. He used to sing. He used to dance like a dream. And he, of course, he looked very good. Maybe, I think he's my son, but he could have been an actor.
No,
He's that good looking. He was that good looking,
no,
and he had
I
all the
second that.
talents. He could paint and sketch. He wrote very good poetry. He wrote very well. He spoke very well. In most of his regimental functions, he would be emceeing. And of course, but I'm not surprised. Akshay was always very fearless and brave, even when he was a child. He would not have stood back if danger was happening. So it's very easy to see. Normally, what happens? Acha, aag lagi, goli chali, to hide. Stay away, stay safe. But what does a soldier have to do? He has to go towards that danger. He has to go into that danger and prevent or kill whoever is doing that. Right. So that's the big difference. It takes a lot of guts and a lot of courage. It's not that soldiers will not feel fear. How do they overcome it, and how do they do for the greater good? So, knowing Akshay, I know that he would have volunteered. He would not have stepped back. He was that type. Even when he was a small child, when children are afraid of the dark, he would sleep alone. He would go down a dark corridor and put on the bathroom light for his older cousins also. He never had this fear. So I'm not surprised that he took it on.
I think he also sent you some images, no, from Kargil, from somewhere, not Kargil, somewhere,
Rezangla. He was inspired by
Razangla.
heroism. Yeah. Yeah. Rezangla. Also some brave hearts who fought in IPKF. Even some Russian soldier who, called an air attack on his own position before before this ISIS terrorists overran his position. He said, "I'm anyway going to die. You please attack, and it's fine. You kill them, and it's fine if I die." We have such stories even from Kargil. Even in Kargil, there was a para officer who said, "Please fire. It's okay. Whether we get hit or not, it's all right. Hit the enemy." When they're very close, an artillery or an air attack from far, it can cause destruction aage piche 50 meter or more, right? So you yourself can be in danger, but that's the kind of bravery that they show, that the soldiers show. So Akshay was inspired by bravery. He used to share a lot of these in our family WhatsApp group. And for some reason in 2016, he was sharing a lot of these stories.
Yeah. Um, Actually, when I again go back to the Nagrota attack and I think of the kind of damage he averted by laying down his life and pinning those soldiers to to the pinning the terrorists to that location. How many terrorists were there?
There were three foreign terrorists, and the local handlers were not inside the building. They
Out
were
of the
somewhere
three,
outside. Yeah,
one was
they've all been
eliminated by
the
Major.
local. No, we
One
don't
of the
know who
terrorists was
killed
eliminated by
who.
Major Akshay.
No, that we don't know who killed who, because at the end of the operation, the three terrorists were killed. And
Yeah.
the operation also ended when the 9 para SF came in to finish the operation, to
Hmm.
clear, they are highly trained. They're in Udhampur. So it took time for them to come. They came in only
This
by
could have
9.
easily been this could have easily
No,
been a first Mumbai terror attack kind
yes,
of
in fact,
thing.
that is what the GOC has written. We have like WhatsApps which were shared by the local, the general officer commanding, who said this could have been another Mumbai or another Kaluchak, in which so many of our people were killed. And it was averted by sheer bravery of our young officers. And he's named Akshay, he's named Chitranjan in that thing. And because people were saying, oh, how did this attack happen? An attack can happen, because a Fedayeen attack can happen anywhere, because they are there to kill and to die and kill others. That is how it is. For
Indoctrinated.
every attack that happens, there are hundreds which are averted by our intelligence agencies and by our security forces. But there's
Yeah,
no guarantee that अब determined चोर घर में तो घुस ही जाएगा ना किसी के.
correct.
So it's not like you can prevent every attack, but it is the response which matters. And the response was tremendous. It was, considering Akshay was not even on duty, the target was not, it was not something that they expected would be hit. And our soldiers fought with INSAS. They didn't even have AK-47s at that point of time, because the AK-47s are in the at the border, at the line of control. It was in Nagrota. They fought with weapons which were not the same as what the terrorists were fighting with, and yet they prevented a huge disaster. I would say
Is there a difference now?
precious lives were saved that day, and
Did that teach us a lesson? Are our soldiers better armed now in that
yes,
position
yes,
also?
yes, yes. Now everyone is very well armed. Of course, everything leads to lessons, and more preparation in future, and so has this. But yes, I mean, it's definitely it's not an easy life, and the element of surprise. See, there are two types of anti-terror operations. One is intelligence says that, okay, these terrorists are going to infiltrate in this area, or they have infiltrated and somebody has seen them around some village or some jungle or something. Then the Rashtriya Rifles team goes after them, right? Cordon and search, as it's called. They form a cordon and they search, and then an attack happens. That is one kind of a thing where you're kind of semi prepared to go. And but the other kind of terror attack is, it first happens and then you are trying to fight it, which is like Pathankot, Uri, Nagrota, Sujwan. After Nagrota also happened, and earlier, of course, like Kaluchak has happened, Mumbai has happened. So, uh, so this is the Pakistani kya, policy: bleed India with 1,000 cuts. That is they can't fight a war. They know that after Kargil, they know that they can't fight a full scale war. That's why even Operation Sindoor, 4 days, they said, please ceasefire kar do. They know that they will lose, right? So they keep trying to push in these terror attacks. And that is what happened even in Nagrota. So when you're responding to an attack which has already happened, your own people are also more at risk. So that's it. Of course, it takes tremendous amount of courage and effort and sacrifices. But then, like I say, there's no victory without sacrifice. And which war is there a victory without sacrifice?
I know. Then
Which
I
battle?
wanted to also touch upon the fact that his twin sister, I was also speaking to Vishal Batra, Vikram Batra's
Yes.
brother, and we were discussing the same thing, that often the siblings' grief is very rarely taken into account by most people who are looking back at these stories, the general public, I mean. So, how did his twin deal with this?
In fact, the strange thing is that the first person to respond to that Akshay's one and only message on the 29th of November was Neha. When his message was in response to, we had already been saying the attack is happening. We didn't know Akshay was leading the QRT or he was in the QRT at that time. We just knew that everybody's gone to their units. So the message that came was that I am in the firefight, my QRT is fighting back, and there are three casualty. Means those earlier soldiers who had already been killed, which I told you. And Neha's immediate response, I think within seconds, was that, oh my God, stay focused, Akshay, I love you. That was her immediate response. After that was my response. So, and Neha is not somebody who's much on WhatsApp. She's not very, she's not that expressive or communicative. But at that instance, when that danger thing came, somehow instinctively, she was the first one to respond. And it's not easy. I think every birthday she finds it very hard because they share a birthday. I'm sure that it's the same story with Vishal and Vikram. When you're twins, and then one birthday is being celebrated and the other one is not there. It's tough.
Okay.
But she's a brave girl and she's very proud of Akshay, like all of us are. So she's handling it very well. And now she has twins. So that's a
Twins runs in
blessing.
the family.
It runs
Hmm.
in the family. It's also a big blessing from God. That's what I would take it as.
Major Akshay's daughter, how is she now? She
She's
was
doing
just
very
three
well.
when.
Nana is 12 and a half. Sangeeta works in a school, and both mother and daughter go to the same school. And Nana's growing beautifully. She's into a lot of activities. She's also very proud of her papa. She speaks well. She also participates, like, in a lot of activities. She plays tennis uh, like him. She's also learning dance, Bharatnatyam. Her mother used to also dance. So,
I recall
yeah.
she used to sing some very beautiful song, patriotic something, when she was just three and we had just lost Major Akshay.
No, it was not a song. She had a recollect. She used to recollect, like when she was 4 and a half, she was telling her mother that I remember that, Papa taught me Jai Hind, and our
Oh,
soldiers are very good and they fight against bad uncles. And who told you this? She said, my papa in the old house next to your friend's house. So she had these recollections of her father teaching her
she
that,
was only three.
soldiers say Jai Hind and soldiers are very good and they fight against bad uncles. She meant against enemies. But that's so that became very viral when ADGPI shared it as a video. I mean, I had first tweeted it, but then ADGPI made that into a video, putting Akshay's pictures and everything into it. That he was the hero of Nagrota, and his daughter remembers this. So that became viral. And there was another song which Akshay is dancing with her. Uh,
Hmm.
he's carrying her and he's dancing with her. I think Vikas Manhas had shared that. Uh, he's holding her in his arms and he's twirling
Vikas
her
Manas
around
is
and she's
doing some
enjoying it.
great work.
Yeah.
Vikas Manas is doing some great work, reaching out to,
Yes, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. In fact,
ma'am,
he's
talking
the one
about,
who came and met us also. 2017, he came and met us. Like he goes
yeah,
and meets all families of soldiers,
yeah, he does
who
it.
lost. Yeah.
Also want to talk about the archer who has been nurtured by the work that you're carrying forward in Major Akshay's name. Can we speak about that a bit?
This is Sheetal Devi. Um, I would say we played a very small role because when we visited Rashtriya Rifles in Kishtwar, at that time the commanding officer said that I know you work with soldiers, to children and all that, but we have a girl who's a special needs child in our area, and she's not a soldier's daughter, but can you do something to help her? So we said, let's try. And then at that point of time, Sheetal wanted to be a teacher, and her first thing was, I want arms, I want arms that will work. So the effort that was made was to get her prosthetic limbs. And at that point of time, I reached out to Anupam Kher Foundation, and he immediately agreed to fund that. But the best part is the doctors and this friend of mine, Preeti Rai, who I reached out to because she had worked a lot with amputees and all that. They told her that, look, these prosthetic arms will not, you don't need them, because Sheetal was doing everything with her legs, with her feet at that time, because she had been born without arms, and she had taught herself to ride with her feet, to eat with her feet. She was doing everything with her feet. And of course, her mother would help her plait her hair and a few other things like that. So they tried dissuading her that you don't really need them, but she was like, "Nahi, mujhe bazu chahiye," because maybe it was a very social construct that you wear arms, and in her innocence she probably thought it would work like natural arms, which did not happen. So that was not a successful process. She was disappointed that the arms don't respond like regular arms. And but the good thing that happened is that Preeti Rai took her. Although we from Major Akshay Girish Foundation were the first people to bring her across to Bangalore with her parents from Kishtwar, had those assessments done by doctors and all of that. But the good thing that happened in this journey was that Preeti Rai got her assessed for sporting potential, and she had a very strong core. And what happened was, after that, she's kind of introduced her into got her assessed for what sport she could go into, and ended up being put into archery. And in just 2 years, she was winning medals for India. So it's so satisfying, and so wonderful to see this journey of this little girl from a small town like Kishtwar bringing glory to our country. And for us, I think we feel very happy that in a small way, our little work, you do a small something and the journey takes it somewhere else. And so many people are part of that journey now, definitely. But yeah, that was the story of Sheetal's.
Yeah. So that we had already seen, and of course, the fact that this foundation is actually being run by you in memory of Major Akshay. Can we know a little about it?
Yeah, so we did feel that with three generations having served the nation, it should not end with losing Akshay. And the next generation is too young, of course, and we don't know what they will want to do. So we wanted to continue this legacy of service to the nation, which is why we started Major Akshay Girish Memorial Trust. And the first thing we did was, we thought that because we have such strong mm, armed forces background, we'll start with motivating students in colleges and schools. In especially Karnataka, there were not that many organizations working on this issue. So we started with with workshops in schools and colleges, mainly colleges. And our sessions, the format was like, we have an information session, an inspiration session, and an interaction session. All these were taken by veteran friends uh, who were experienced. So the information session is about careers in the armed forces. What is the eligibility? How do you prepare? What is the process? What all is
Mm,
required?
very
Inspiration
important.
session is somebody who's achieved something, a hero in battle or a distinguished veteran is, we give them the floor to tell their story to inspire the young. And interaction session is a panel of officers with different backgrounds, Army, Navy, Air Force, maybe doctors, whoever, those who are who've been part of SSB, they answer questions that the students have. Any question, right from medical to my
Geographically,
parents don't want me to go to what is the educational requirement for eligibility for this particular those kind of, so all questions would be answered. This used to be our format. It was very well received in the first few years when we started, and then along with this we started traveling to meet other soldier families across the country. Soldiers families, in the sense those who had lost a soldier like us, we started bonding with them. And then we realized that so many of them had so many issues which we didn't have. We were much more blessed. People were living in remote areas, unable to access entitlements and benefits. Some had employment issues, education issues, somebody's house. Some parents were very badly neglected because the next of kin policy names one person as the beneficiary. So if a soldier is
mm,
married, then the spouse becomes the beneficiary. And
true.
then the parents of the soldier, they they are not considered they're not considered family anymore. So although they may
True.
not have been dependent on paper, they were dependent on the soldier son. When he would come on
Yeah.
leave, wo ghar ka chhat saaf kara do, the younger sibling ka fees bhar do, beti ki shadi mein help kara do, medical treatment kara do. So what happens is, unless there were good relations between the spouse and the in-laws, there's a complete break. The family
True.
falls apart, and the parents face not only loss of their child but also neglect. And this was something that really a lot of other people will also agree with this, that this policy is rooted in the Western concept of next of kin,
Yeah,
and
truly.
it's just India has just borrowed it from the West. Though, like West, in the West, what happens at 18, a child has to leave home, pay for his
Leave
own
home.
education, work in petrol pump,
True.
idhar udhar, whatever, and they pay for their own wedding. They have a social security number. If they don't get a job, they get some dole. You're like that, you're an
True, true,
individual in
true.
the West.
Yeah.
But in India, our social securities, parents look after children and children look after parents till they,
Yes.
as long as they live, like, right? I mean, even today, my
True,
daughter's
true.
twins will come home after school, I will look after, right?
Very
So
true. Yes.
suddenly, and vice versa, when parents get old, then the children look after them. So that policy, the next of kin policy, which names one person as the beneficiary, and with the change in society, we are no longer joint families. uh, Women move away. We are nuclear
Yeah.
now, everybody moves away. Even remarriage is very well accepted, as it should be in our society. So lives change, and then these old parents are left high and dry, and we found many such, and we started helping such people. So such things have also started happening. Then Veer Naris wanting jobs but not getting jobs, so we try to refer them to people. um, some children wanting admission in certain colleges, so we try to do
Across
bridge
India?
this.
Across
Pardon?
India, Akka, or is it limited to where
Not,
you
I
live?
won't say across India, it's more closer to where we are, but we, across India, we try to link them to other people. There are other organizations working across India. You need to
Yes.
network. And then there are those major advocacy studies, pan nationwide studies, which I have led in collaboration with others and with volunteers, which have been published and which have reached the Raksha Mantralaya. They've gone to MOD. They've been published by the defense think tank USI of India, both on families of brave hearts killed, soldiers killed in action, and on soldiers disabled due to war, and what is their difficulties, the ground realities and the gaps in their access to entitlements and benefits. It could be policy gap, it could be implementation gap, it could be awareness gap, it could be access gaps. So all these have been parallelly happening. Advocacy efforts have been parallelly happening. Each of these studies has taken like over 2 years. It's been published, it's been shared. But when will it actually look at, when will the decision makers actually go into reviewing policy based on today's ground realities? You can't, 25 years down the line, Kargil is 28 years old. You can't still not review policy in light of today's changing society and environment. It needs to
True.
happen. It needs to happen.
Yeah.
So
Very good.
apart from that, we also have a Vijay Diwas every December where we honor war veterans. We
Okay.
felicitate war veterans. And our audience is 70% students, and we always have a large audience, over 500-600. And the idea there is that young people look at war heroes and realize that, every challenge is, you must face it with courage and you can overcome it.
Akka, now that we have spoken about Kargil and Nagrota and other memorial days also, what is that one thing you would like to tell the youngsters, boys and girls, and parents today before we say goodbye?
What is the one thing? I would like to say that our freedom is not free. It was won with a lot of struggle and sacrifices, and our geography is such that we have to be self-reliant. We are surrounded by neighbors who are not friendly to us, or they are the other countries are very small and nobody can really help us. We have to protect ourselves and we have to progress with uh, uh, being self reliant both. So let's always be grateful to our soldiers who guard our borders and ensure that the rest of us can sleep in peace and dream and live. So I think that is the message that I would like to give youngsters. Don't get taken in by all the negativity. Have pride in your country and do what you can uh, to make your country go further. A lot of people have brought this country um, from being underdeveloped and poor to uh, showing the world what we are capable of, and the journey ahead is not
Yes.
going to be easy, but it's very doable. A lot of good people are
We
doing
have
this, and I
become the
think
only
everybody needs to
third
do
country in the world with private space operators and agents.
it.
We
Right.
have our own Elon Musk now.
Yes, and sky is the limit. We have very talented youth also. It's just that people shouldn't get into this negative mindset. Oh, my country is no good, and I want to go elsewhere. You'll always be a second class citizen wherever you go.
Thank you so much, Akka. It was very enlightening. And like I've always said, you're a very positive person. You are a very inspiring and motivational person. No wonder Major Akshay was your son. You both, mother and son, are a huge inspiration to us. Thank you so much for gracing our show. And we would love to meet you again soon. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank thank you so much, and happy Kargil Vijay Diwas in advance. Jai
Yes,
Hind.
victory to the nation. Jai
Jai
Hind.
Hind ki Sena.
जय हिंद की सेना यस